We are also just scared of letting go and trusting someone else to help us because we think it means that it says that we're not capable, that we need help because we can't do it. And I like to sometimes change the narrative of, no, it's not that we can't do it. It's especially in our businesses, we've grown our business to the point where we shouldn't be doing it any longer. We've moved on from doing those things because we're doing more and higher level items.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fun one. Our guest is the owner of Growing Your Team, which helps empower women entrepreneurs and leaders by teaching them to master the hiring process. Jamie Van Cuyk, welcome back to the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the podcast again, Michael.
Well, it's great to have you, and I'm looking forward to catching up. What have you been up to? And in fact, there's often people who maybe didn't get a chance to listen to your podcast when you were on the show previously. So maybe tell us a little bit about yourself so our listener can know who you are and as well what you've been up to since our last conversation.
Yeah, sounds great. So as you mentioned, I am Jamie Van Cuyk, the owner of Growing Your Team, where we help small business owners gain the confidence to hire like a pro. We really work with the micro business owners. So typically our clients have fewer than 5 employees. Almost all have fewer than 10 employees. So we're really helping business owners navigate those early stage hiring, typically when that business owner is learning that they need to delegate more and more from their plate. So that way they can really focus on what they need to focus on in their business. We help business owners learn to let go and then how to find the right people for those positions through a whole suite of services that are designed to meet the business owner with where they are and what they know and what they are capable of doing throughout the hiring process. Because we all know in business, even if we know how to do something, doesn't necessarily mean we have the time to do it. So we offer hiring education, hiring guidance, and also full service recruiting. And then since I was last on the podcast, for a lot of the business stuff, it's staying pretty much the same. We're still serving clients the same ways that we always have, like every business, listening to feedback, getting better as time goes on, as we all do. But just recently, this last fall, I co-authored a book called Rise and Find, a guide for ambitious women achieving their dream life. And it's available on Amazon. We did reach the Amazon bestseller list. I co-authored it with 12 other women. And my section is all around delegating. So not fearing delegating and discussing why we resist delegating, and then how to identify really where we need to let go and to bring in help, because help isn't a bad thing. Help is something that we all need in order to be successful and truly live happy, successful lives.
It's wonderful. Well, that is a great place to start. Delegation. What are the fears that people have that prevent them from delegating?
Yeah. So I love this question because we all have these fears, whether we realize them or not. The first fear is just being able to trust someone to do the work right. We've been doing it, especially within our business. It's typically our name that's attached to the work output. So we are scared to let someone else be a part of that. We are scared that someone else is going to do it wrong. And the thing about it is, people will make mistakes along the way, but we also make mistakes. We're not perfect. And so sometimes we need to realize that mistakes will happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean we shouldn't delegate. One of the other things that is kind of surprising when it comes to around the fear of delegating is deep down, sometimes we're afraid people will actually get it right in a level that is better than us. And then it will make us look bad. What if we hire someone to do client work and now all of a sudden our clients are just raving about the change in quality from a positive lens. And we're just like, oh my goodness, well, now someone else is doing it and this person is doing it better than I am. My clients are realizing that that must mean that I wasn't doing it right, or that I was putting out a subpar output. And we sometimes we're scared of that. We are also just scared of letting go and trusting someone else to help us because we think it means that it says that we're not capable, that we need help because we can't do it. And I like to sometimes change the narrative of, no, it's not that we can't do it. It's especially in our businesses, we've grown our business to the point where we shouldn't be doing it any longer. We've moved on from doing those things because we're doing more and higher level items.
Wow. It's definitely an interesting concept, the idea that someone would come into the business and be better than the owner at it. Some people would think, wow, you've won the lottery ticket there. But yet there's that unconscious stuff that's going on behind the scenes that can hold people back.
Yeah, because what happens when they leave, if they leave?
There you go. So it's a double-edged sword. That's kind of like that. It's like, oh, they're going to come and do better than me, and then if I do find them, they're going to just leave on me. So it's kind of a negative way of thinking about it. Now, I know that myself, and I'll point the finger here at me, is often, I'm doing something, I know I should delegate it, but I'll say, there's probably some things in there that I'd be better doing it rather than delegating it out. It's a slippery slope. And then sure enough, I find stuff that it's like, oh, it's almost like self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, oh yes, of course, this is a little bit jiggly here. Someone else isn't going to be able to do that. How do you get over that mindset?
Yeah. Well, first it's remembering that we're not the only person that can do things. Other people are doing similar things in their business. Like, we're not the only person who has those skills.
Yes.
So
this is therapy. Perfect. Right? I need it.
Right. So there's that. The other thing is sometimes when we look at things and we say, I can delegate this, but there's parts of this that I need to hold on to. And then we say, because I need to hold on to parts of it, I need to hold on to all of it. And that's not true. A lot of times where I start with business owners, especially if they don't have anybody on their team yet, it's making them realize that they don't have to hand off an entire process in order to get help in a process. So let's talk about marketing, for example. You can have someone helping you 100% behind the scenes, or actually, let's talk about this podcast. You have to show up and you have to record the episodes. You're probably involved in the process of selecting guests and selecting the topics and making sure that it all aligns. But it doesn't mean you have to be doing the editing on the back end. It doesn't mean you have to be posting yourself all the content to go out and promote your episodes. There are parts of a podcast that you can delegate while you're still being involved in the podcast. And we have to remember that for like every part of our business is we don't have to let go of everything to let go of something within a process. So yes, there are things that at the stage of your business that you have to hold on to. I always challenge people by asking them the question of, does it have to be done right or does it have to be done by you? And a lot of times they'll say, well, it has to be done right, but I'm the only one that can do it right. And I'm like, no, we can train someone to do it right. But there are things in your business that have to be done by you. And that list of things will change based on how your business progresses and over the years and how big your team gets and how comfortable you are with delegating. And you'll learn as years go on, there's more and more that just needs to be done right and doesn't need to be done by you. But early on in a business, especially when you don't have a big team, there are things that you're going to have to hold on to, but you can let go of other things. Also, the whole thing of like, well, I can just do it better. I can do it faster. Well, maybe at first that's true. But let's say it's a task that takes 5 hours every week. Those 5 hours every week add up. And maybe this week you can do it faster than the person you delegate to, but eventually they're going to be able to do it most likely just as fast as you. But even if they're a little bit slower 3 months from now than you could do it, that's still 5 hours every week that you're saving that you can be focusing on something else. So sometimes we have to look at what do we save when we delegate to others versus how much time it would take you just to do it yourself.
Absolutely. And it definitely feels, you had a good example of this podcast, and there's a lot that has to happen to make the podcast happen. And in the beginning, a lot of it was never just all me, but it was Dave and I, and over time, it's kind of like you go, there just isn't enough time.
Yep.
And it's almost had we not delegated, the podcast wouldn't have been able to continue. It would have suffered. And so that's that other side too, is like what's possible by getting that time back is that it actually creates a whole new living, breathing process that's being done by somebody else. They're bringing their own creativity to it, some ideas, all that good stuff that it sets the thing free.
Yes.
And also gives back time to both of us when we had other people being involved and doing the work. So it's definitely there, but I can relate to many having that challenge of, just not being able to delegate, and still to this day, lots of stuff that I know I could be delegating, but I don't. And, it get better all the time, but it's like, what are the signs that a bookkeeping business owner is maybe holding on to too much and really does need to delegate and get this going?
Yeah. Yes. So I would say the easiest thing to look at this for the number one sign is you're always feeling behind. So you feel like you can never get on top of your to-do list. And there are times of the year or times of the month where it's probably a little bit busier than others. You're in an industry where there are things that need to be due every month. There are things that need to be due possibly as you're helping clients prepare more stuff when it comes to tax season and things like that to get their books in order. So there are times of the year where things might be a little bit busier, but you have to look, is it consistently happening? Is it not just a busy week? Because no matter where you are, no matter if you're working for corporate, no matter if you're working for yourself, there's going to be busy weeks. There's going to be busy days. But if it's consistently where you're feeling behind, like you can never get on top of your to-do list, that you're always having to reschedule stuff for tomorrow, that's probably a sign that you have too much work on your plate. Another sign that it's probably time to delegate is if you are having to say no to idea clients, or there's other ways where people want to give you money and you would love to take on that project or take on that client and take that revenue into your business, but you're having to say no because you know that you do not have the capacity to do it. And so that's a sign that you could use more help within your business. Because then once you get that additional help, you're gaining additional hours in your business where you can then say yes to that additional client. There's also a sign that it's time to delegate and get that additional help if you're starting to drop with your customer service levels. So what I mean by this is your clients are always following up with you because you're always behind now. You told them you'd give them something on Tuesday, and now here it is on Thursday, and you haven't delivered it yet. Your clients are starting to feel like they don't matter anymore. And we're not talking about clients that expect you to immediately respond all the time, or those clients that are just think that they should be like the only person you ever are working with. We're talking about clients that are expecting reasonable turnaround times, or turnaround times that you promised them, but now they're getting upset and frustrated because you're not meeting those expectations. So they then go and take their business elsewhere. So if that's happening a lot, where people are then frustrated with you or taking their business elsewhere, it's probably a sign that you have too much work on your plate. So you're not able to uphold the customer service levels that people expect when they work with a business of your type. And you should delegate more so that way you can keep customers happy.
Absolutely. And this idea of shifting a perspective from losing control to gaining freedom through delegation. I mean, that's kind of the flip of the coin is, if you're not delegating, you're kind of losing control. You're getting behind, as you say, and that's a really stressful place to be. Whereas this other side, you're delegating and you start to get into freedom. That's a really exciting place to be. But how do they shift to that?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is trust. Trusting that someone else can do well to support you, trusting that someone else can do it right, trusting that you have the leadership and management skills to help somebody be successful in your organization. And with that, we don't have to be perfect leaders. Sometimes being the best leader is saying, I made a mistake. I should have told you XYZ. I should have trained you on this. And I'm realizing now that I forgot. But it's just really, it's about trusting. It's about trusting the process and understanding that you did what it was needed to know what type of help that you actually need in your organization. So when you bring in the right person for that right position, it is going to do well. So that way you can have that freedom. And then once that person's there, properly letting go. I know a lot of business owners that shift from doing the work to micromanaging the work. And they don't want to be a micromanager, but then they get into a cycle where they feel like they have to micromanage the work. And a lot of it is because they don't trust their team member to actually do it. And a lot of times they'll come to me and say, well, I can't trust them. And I said, well, have you set up an environment where trust can be built? How have you properly delegated? How have you properly let go of these tasks? And the more we dig into it, they never really let go of the tasks to let the team member actually own the responsibility and authority of the task. They just kind of delegated the work and they're still owning the authority that it's going to get done. And so they're doing too much to micromanage versus trusting the process of delegating.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the, we talk about it over the years. Debbie Roberts, who is the co-founder of Pure Bookkeeping, Pure Bookkeeping builds standard operating procedures for bookkeeping firms. And that was the key thing for her, was she just didn't feel like she could trust anybody with her clients. Mm-hmm. And bookkeeping's very technical business. And so the solution was build standard operating procedures so detailed that another bookkeeper could do the work as good as she could do it. And that's what gave her really it was a window or a little taste of, so if I was able to ensure that the other people that we hire could do it as good as me, that was a shift for her, was where she actually believed that she might be able to trust somebody if she did all this work in order to have a process that was so detailed that they could do it as good as her. And I mean, it took her a long time to actually succeed with that. But I think that jumps back to that other mindset of, someone's never going to be able to do it. And so it just shuts everything down. So no, there's no possibility there.
Yeah, like there's two things around that I kind of want to discuss. Is first, when it comes to creating those processes, as I'm sure she realized when she was first creating the processes for her own business, it was, you don't realize how much you're doing just out of habit that then you have to train someone else on. So probably that first time when you go and create those standard operating procedures, you're going to be missing things. So if you take that first draft and you try to train a team member with it, there's going to be gaps in knowledge, because with you, it's so second nature that you're like, why did I have to tell my new team member where to go and get these files? Because you don't think about it. It's just like, go and open this file. Okay, well, where is it? How do I get to it? How do I know if this client has that type of file or not? How do I know all this? If you don't tell me, I don't know. And we're not talking about bookkeeping knowledge. Like, do they know how to be a bookkeeper? We're talking about, do they know how to be a bookkeeper inside your processes, inside your organization? And that's where a lot of that training falls through, where you go and create these standard operating procedures. Sometimes it's that, I forgot that I had to tell somebody this. And that's where a lot of that challenges with delegating is we don't realize that we forgot to tell somebody, and we're just blaming them for not knowing. So we need to make sure that we are telling people every step of the process, and understanding that sometimes at first we are going to make mistakes, and those standard operating procedures are going to get better and better the more we go through them. The other thing is, when we train on things like that, our standard operating procedures, it's typically not here's the standard operating procedure on day one, go and do it. There's typically some training process around it, opportunities for them to ask questions, opportunities to see if they're understanding and things like that. So a lot of times I like to equate it as when you're teaching a kid to ride a bike. You don't just put them on a bike and say, here's a bike, here's a video, watch someone riding a bike. Okay, you got it, go right down the street. Because no kid would be able to do that. They could watch someone ride a bike a million times, and it doesn't mean that they actually understand what does it mean to balance, what does it mean to start and keep going, and what does it mean to stop, and all those things. So what do? We first put training wheels on. Then we might make the training wheels a little bit uneven so they can get their balance a little bit. Then we remove the training wheels, and we're still holding the bike for them, but they're doing the work. Then they're riding the bike, we're running alongside them in case they need help. And then eventually we let them go and do it on their own. So it's a lot with training. It's like, what do those training wheels look like? How do I run alongside them? How do I support them to a point where then I know that they're safe to do it on their own? And I know that I can completely step out of that because they can do it.
So true. So true. And that really is the challenge of it. And it's funny how we do think we know less than other people. And so what is that quote? It's we underestimate the capabilities of ourselves and overestimate the capabilities of others. And the amount of information that needs to be transferred to somebody to do something very simple is unbelievable. It's like we think, as you say, it's all up in our head, it's in our unconscious mind. We're doing things, we know how to do it, we've been doing it for years. To try and break that down into small bite-sized pieces that another person can take on, it's hard to get it all at once. So multiple drafts, multiple iterations, and eventually it gets there.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So now that's a little bit of maybe perfectionism. Let's talk a little bit about perfectionism, because I know I suffer from a little bit of that. I think every entrepreneur probably does.
Yep.
How do you get through perfectionism? Because you could think that same, it's never going to be good enough.
Yes. Okay. So one of the things I challenge a lot of my clients with is when it comes to training and delegating is asking them the question, well, what does it mean to do something right? And when they tell me, okay, it means to do it like this, or if they tell me that one of their team members did something wrong, my next question is, why? Why is that wrong? Or why is your way right? And if they tell me, because I said so, or that's the way I want it, then I say, okay, well, then that's just your personal preference. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. And personal preference is really hard to train on. And so we have to think of other reasons of why this is right for it to be done this way, or why what our team member did is wrong. And if all we can really think about is personal preference, then sometimes we have to let go. And we have to say that, well, we need to let other people do it their way. And there are things that it's going to be that it has to be done this way because there's a reason. And it could be, this is what we promise to our clients. So client expectations. It could be that this falls into our brand. So the brand expectations and our brand voice and our brand's image that we put out. There are things that need to be done this way because of laws and regulations that we need to follow, compliance issues. So there's a lot of reasons why something needs to be done a certain way. But if it only comes back to, I like it this way, maybe it's something that we need to let go of. It could be as simple as, well, on this Excel sheet, I like everything aligned to the right versus the left, but my team member puts it to the left. It's like, well, does that really matter in the eyes of the client? Is it some of those things? Does it really matter when it comes to compliance? Does it really matter when it comes to our brand image? Or is it just that you've always done it that way and it's an internal document and no one ever sees it? So who cares at the end of the day besides you? And the more we let go of our personal preference, that's where we're able to grow more of a business versus it just being us. That we are able to say, this is what it means to be right. This is what it means to do it based on my brand and my client expectations. And I can trust other people to do it because I'm allowing them to do things that are right for them as well. And sometimes when you do that, it also shows you at times that Other people's way might be better. And it doesn't mean that your way was wrong. It might just be that their way was better. Maybe it's more efficient, things like that. And it's sometimes like they just have different exposure and different backgrounds, different points of view that allows these ideas and this innovation and everything to happen once we let go of the perfectionism on our side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Is there something that people can start with? Like what are the key areas of delegation? Like in a small business, where do people start? Is there a good place to start or just go start anywhere?
Okay, so this is one of those business questions where the answer is it depends. It's going to depend on a lot of things to understand really the right place for you to delegate. One of the places I like to say is you got to find out what is going to give you the best ROI to get it off of your plate and move it on to someone else's plate. For some businesses, that is getting help and support directly with client work. In other businesses, it's going to be getting support on the things that are going to help create more client work. So the marketing, the back-end admin, the things that help a business run outside of doing the actual client work. So I always say, start just making a list of things that you would like to get off your plate, things that are always falling to the bottom of your to-do list, things that you wish there were two of you so you could get more of this stuff done, and just start creating a list of things that you could potentially delegate inside your business. And then just start ranking them based on the return on investment if someone else was doing that work. If someone else was doing this work, what impact would it have on your business? What impact would it have on your clients? If you do have team members now, what impact would it have on those team members? And then start prioritizing that based on what would have the biggest impact. And that's the place where you should start first. Another layer to put in that is also to make sure it's aligned with your goals. So if your goals this year is to, let's say, for example, significantly increase your revenue, well, what is going to help you increase your revenue as well? Where do you need to spend your time to increase your revenue? Are you really good at sales and marketing and you need to spend more time there? Well, then maybe you need someone who's actually doing more of the client work so that way you don't have to be stuck in the client work so you can focus on sales and marketing. Or maybe you're really good at the client work and you can turn that out like that, but the sales and marketing is that stuff that always gets pushed to the bottom of your to-do list. You're not good at it. So in order to get more business in, you need someone who's going to help bring that business in, and then you can serve that business once it comes in because you have those other tasks off your plate.
So true, and good thinking around that. I remember we had a family business. It was a bistro, and it was open 7 days a week. And my mom would always think, "Oh, I'm going to work on Sunday because it's the quietest day. So why pay someone else to work in a shop that's super quiet when I can just be there and working?" And I would always remind her, it's like, that's like game day is Saturday, game days, Saturdays, Friday, Thursday. Those are big days. And so you need a lot of people on, and then you need to have a break at some point. Like, it's delegating in a way that was her delegating her time to be off on a Sunday. It's like, yeah, you're paying that person, but they're actually there on the least critical day of the week. And that was a great day to actually have someone do it because A, you knew they could handle it. There wasn't a lot of customers. There wouldn't be a lot of impact of having just a staff member do that. And that's often what I think happens in a business, small business and bookkeeping businesses, is that the work that really should be done by the owner is not being done because they can't get to it because they're doing things that they think, oh, this is, why would I pay someone else to do that? I mean, it's classic that their customers say that all the time. It's like, oh, I could do the bookkeeping.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, that's the last thing business owners should be doing is their bookie. They should be hiring a bookkeeper that's going to do it right, do it well, get it done quickly. And yet it happens in every single business. So it's just another way of thinking and layering on that level of view of what's the most valuable piece of work that you can do in a day. And often it might take another set of eyes to help figure that out and tell you, because my mom couldn't see that. She's like, what do you mean? Why would I pay someone to be in here on a Sunday? It's like, that is not game day.
Well, and I think that brings up a really good thing. And obviously, running a bookkeeping business is different than owning a barista. But you have clients that are probably in that scenario that you can educate your clients as well. If you think about if your mom's working on Sunday, it probably means that she's taking another day off, right? So she's paying someone else to be there on a different day. So if you look at the overall things, she's probably paying the same amount in staff just by having the place open on Sunday. But she's thinking of it as a savings because she's there on Sunday versus paying someone to be there. But that person's just there on a different day for her. But one of the things about it that I think is important is remembering what your goals are. And your goals or your client's goals might be to spend more time with family. And especially if you have kids or you have a significant other that is not working in that job with you and they have weekends off, well, wouldn't that Sunday be super important to have off to spend with family and do those things outside of work that you're looking to do? So sometimes we have to think about what our goals are. And yes, our business might be open on a Sunday, but it doesn't mean we have to work on that Sunday and we can be achieving our goals of being with family or being able to go to football games if you're a real big football person or things like that, where it's just like, what does life look out like outside of work? And is that what our goal is this year to really enjoy life outside of work?
It's absolutely bang on, and that's the key thing. Is her time was she would probably not take a day off, and so what's the goal? Like the goal, it's like you need to have time off to be fresh on the game days. Eventually, that's a formula that just ends up not working. Is working too much in the business, and every single listener on here has either been there, is there, or will be there, where it's overworking to the point of being frustrated, burnt out, those sorts of things. And that takes away from all the other aspects of being able to, what that piece of that game day is for anyone's business. In a bookkeeping business, there's certain critical things that if you don't have the energy or the mindset, it's going to deflate. It's going to deflate the owner.
Yeah, there's that whole point of what they call diminishing returns. Like, could you keep pushing through and keep getting work done? Yes. Is it going to be at the right quality after a certain point? No. So you're better off taking a break and then coming back another day or hours later after you take a good chunk of time away from the work because you're refreshed and the work quality is going to go up again.
Absolutely. So now we've talked a lot about delegation. Let's maybe spend a little bit of time on what that looks like to say, look, okay, we know we need somebody to come into here to even delegate. What are some thoughts around, that first step of hiring someone to come into the business?
Yeah. So really where to start when you're going to go hire someone for your business is really becoming clear on that position. Not only just what tasks is this person going to do, that is super important as well. You have to know, what am I going to hand off to this person every day? But another layer of it is, what does it mean to be successful in this role? When you look back at this role 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, what's going to tell you that this person was worth the money that you spent to bring that person into the business? And once we start getting that mindset of what does success look like, it helps us really define more of who would be the idea person for that position. What does that look like? We also want to really understand our culture. And some people are like, well, I'm a business of one. I'm a small business. I really don't have a company culture yet. But you do. It's how you serve your clients. It's how you show up. It's your management style. It's your communication style. That's all a part of the company culture that you're putting out there. And if you're going from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 people, bringing someone in who doesn't match the work style of your business is going to be like nails on a chalkboard to you. It's not going to be fun. So you really need to understand, what is your work style? What is your company culture? So you can bring in the right person. So once you understand all that, you can really develop that picture of your idea candidate that you need to bring in. It's not only someone who can do the tasks, but it's going to do the tasks in a way that fits in with your organization, and who is going to be able to help you achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve because you bring this position in. Once you know all that, you can then go out and find this person. You're going to create a job post that speaks directly to this idea candidate. It's okay to turn people off with your job post because you want a job post that speaks to your idea candidate. And then once you know that idea candidate, you can make sure you're asking the right questions during the interview. So once again, not only do we want to make sure someone can do the technical skills, so if you're looking for someone who has advanced bookkeeping skills, we need to make sure that they actually have advanced bookkeeping skills. But once again, we also want to make sure that they fit into the work style and the work culture and everything that we're creating. So what other questions can you ask to really determine if this person is right for your organization? Because once again, just because someone is good at what they do does not mean they're right for you. So how do we make sure they're both good at what they do and right for you?
So true. I'd love to hear some stories of transformation, perhaps people that you've worked with, getting over delegation, hiring a team into their business. What were some of their highs and lows of that journey?
Yes. Okay. So this client came to mind immediately when you asked that question is we started working together. And it started off as a project of he had been in business for a few years and never felt like he could take a vacation. And so he was like, I want to learn how to delegate more to my current team so I can take a vacation. And while we were going through that process, he also had an opportunity to hire a new team member for his business. And this was a gym. He was doing personal training. So he was able to hire a new personal trainer. And he goes to me, he goes, I always hate hiring. It's so stressful. I'll post jobs, I'll advertise jobs, and I really don't get any candidates. If I do get candidates, they're completely unqualified. He goes, I don't know what to do. And so I said, okay, well, let's look at this. Let's look at your job post. And the job post, it was very vague. It just pretty much said, we're hiring personal trainers, come work for us. And I said, well, that's your problem. You don't have a job post that speaks to your idea candidate. And he was like, well, I did that on purpose because I want anyone who's looking for personal training jobs to apply. And then I can sort through them and decide who I want to interview. And I just said, how is that working for you? And then he looked at it and he goes, well, I guess it's not. And I'm like, so let's change things. We wrote a job post that spoke to his idea candidate. He was able to get amazing candidates into his pipeline and had someone hired within a very short period of time. Because we were making sure that we were focusing on that idea candidate that had those skills, like one of the things that he was lacking was having someone he felt like he could really trust to open the doors and deal with client problems and everything while he was gone. We made sure that when we were hiring for this position, that not only were we hiring someone who could serve the clients on a consistent basis, but hiring someone who could step into that leadership role when he was not there. And so we were able to find that person. And a few months later, he was able to take that vacation that he'd wanted and able to really turn his phone off and say, reach out to me if it's an emergency only. Like if the place is burning down, reach out to me. And so he was really successful there and then being able to build that business. Another one of my clients that I can just talk about real quickly was in a process where he felt like he needed to be very involved with everything. Even he was running a tutoring business and he felt like he just needed to be involved with almost everything that went out. And this really was involved in a lot because he didn't know how to properly train. Well, I wouldn't say he didn't know how to properly train, but it was creating a process that the training was taking a long time. So it was like how to make sure that this person was able to tutor the clients through the process that they created as an organization. So what they were known for as a brand. And he felt like he was having to spend a lot of time teaching people how to then go and teach their clients. So we changed up the hiring process and really said, okay, like we need to make sure we're getting you out of having to do that. Like you need to be able to bring someone in that you can trust that can do the job. And what does it mean to trust someone to do the job? Okay, if you're going to trust someone to do the job, they need to have these skills. So we're going to create a hiring process that helps you determine before someone comes into your business if they have these skills. And so he went and he used the hiring process that we put together, hired a new team member, and then came back later to help hire a different team member for his business. But he said it was amazing that first time around because he was able to bring in the right person and identify the right skills during the hiring process. it made the training so easy, and he was able to trust this person and actually able to let go of all the work that he was holding on to and all the oversight that he was having with his previous team members, simply because he knew this person could do the job before they were ever hired, because he asked the right questions during the hiring process.
That's fantastic.
And because of that, he was then able to expand his business and bring in this other role that he thought was far down the pipeline.
Wow. It's very inspirational. And I love hearing those stories. It's what can give our listener the inspiration to take action. And wherever you are, whether you're just solo, you've got some staff, you need to improve things, or you're rocking and rolling and you want to expand, this is where we want to see you go. And so this has been fantastic, Jamie. If people want to learn more from you or want to get access to information that you might be putting out, or have anything you'd like to share with our listener, what's the best way to do that?
Yes. So you could go over to growingyourteam.com, and there'll be all the different ways that you can get in touch with us. I have the Growing Your Team podcast. It's available on all major podcasting networks, or you can get to it through growingyourteam.com/podcast. Also on the website, there is our product shop. So growingyourteam.com/shop. And inside that product shop, we have do-it-yourself tools. We have free downloads. We have different templates and things that you can purchase to really help you along your hiring journey or get you started. So one of the free downloads that we have there is a determine what to delegate worksheet. So if you're in that process of saying, all right, I know I need to get stuff off my plate, but I'm not sure what I need to delegate, you can go and download that worksheet for free, and it'll help guide you through the steps that I mentioned today on this podcast and a few others to help you really figure out what you should be delegating in your business to get the best ROI and just really get you started on that process of hiring.
Beautiful. Well, that's super exciting and sounds like a lot of value for our listener. And Jamie, I want to thank you for being on the show and coming and sharing your knowledge.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure has been all ours. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.